Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to C++ tutorial. This tutorial is basically going to address some of the questions you might have raised in our earlier discussion and probably something else. I want to believe that you have written a program before, and all the programs that you're going to be writing, or indeed applications that you'll be developing in this context, not very different from what you've experienced in your lifetime. I want to remind you that in year 1 we had computer mathematics. In that course you did look at logic gates and logic circuits. You also had to look at data representation, and then you also had to look at pseudocodes and algorithms, the flowcharts and all that. Now the way you were developing flowcharts, those were actually programs. Now in this course we want to actualize whatever you were doing into reality and see why things happen that way. So programming basically looks at developing skills that will be able to solve problems that people might be facing out there. Now for you to be able to write codes very well, first of all you need to fully understand the programs that you'll be using and maybe applications that you'll be interacting with. So with me, I have two. If you look at the bottom of my screen, that is in my taskbar, I have code blocks, and then I also have dev++. Now I will begin to look at each one of them from a different angle. So when you load or you open your code block, it loads like this, but then when you are starting up a new project, so let's say you go on new, that's file, new, then you look at a project, so you click on project, and then in here you are looking at the console application. So look out for the console application because you'll be typing in there. So let's look at I'll pick console application, and then I'll say go, or you can double click, it will take you there. So at this point here you're looking at C++ and not C. By default it had selected C++ because that's the configuration I'd put when accepting some setups. So click on next. Then at this point you have to assign a name to your project. So in this case, let's say I'll type tutorial there. So I'll say tutorial. That's the name of this particular project, and the rest of the information there is I think you are familiar. You can change by clicking on this the three dots. Some computers will read browse. You can change the file location. In this case it is actually falling into you can see the path from C drive in the user folder, and then family folder, and then documents, and then web lesson. So that's the path. So my project is going right into web lessons. Not so much about that, you just have to go, and then you see that the compiler that you are using is a GCC or GNU CC compiler, and then you are going to create two options there. You have a debug and the release. Okay, we'll not talk about this before you get confused with what that is, but for now just take it as you do the installations. You simply accept yes, and finally you install your application. So there we are, we go and finish. So when you load, you finish the project, basically what will happen is your project will not appear on the screen here. You see from my working space here that I have this is my workspace, and the project I created is here saying tutorial. Okay, so under tutorial then we have we have the main, we have the source, and then we have, so under the source here, if I were to click on it, then it pops up the main CPP, that is the file extension for C++. So I'll have to click this for the project interface to open. Okay, so there it is. So when you're using sorry about that, when you're using code blocks, what will happen is it will open with a program written already. A default program will be there. As you can see, it says include our stream, and then using namespace standard, and then the main function is there, and there is a print statement there, which is hello world. We'll end there for now. Let's go back to this other application. So when you go into dev++, it's the same process. You click on a new, and then you go into a project. Again, here you can see this console application if you followed, and then you say okay. Okay, there was a project that was running of the same name, so I'll just keep it that way. So you notice a difference that with dev++, there is no program that has been written for you. So it is actually asking me for the file location and file name. Okay, that you can do on your own. So allow me to just go back to the project itself. So there we are, we have one. So there we go. We would say okay, console application, and then that. Okay, this is going to be, let me give it like a project 3. I'll save it, and the web. Looks like all my projects are in the web, although this is not web. So now you've seen that this one, the only function included, we have the main function here, but here there are these declaratives or directives. So the first directive is include IO stream. That's the only thing which is there. So there is actually no standard namespace. But the function is there, and then there is no default program, so you have to begin writing from the scratch. So here, if you are using this application, then you need to recall that in code blocks, they include iOS stream is there, but this statement is actually not there. I will explain what that statement really means. So when you come to dev++, then there you need to actually put that particular statement there for it to run. So you put that statement, and then inside these curly brackets you can do the needful. So let's go back to this code blocks and look at the content that it has here, and then begin to explain some of this. So I'll start with directive include iOS stream. So what does it do? Why is it there? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this makes available the character in and character out, so that you can interact with the program. When we say character in and character out, we are talking about this particular statement here. This is the character out, the C out. Actually, C stands for character, then out as it is. Okay, you'll be able to interact with that. So the fact that it appears on your screen like that, once you state it that way, then you are instructing this application to compile and allow you to interact with the system, and that has to look at the C out and the character in, which is seen. Then allow me to move on to the next statement, which is using namespace standard or STD. So that this particular aspect tells the compiler to use the standard namespace. By the way, namespace is actually relatively new. It's a recent addition to C++. Then after this, we have the main function. This is the main function, and all the activities will be happening in the main function. Then the curly brackets there will contain a statement that will be executed or part of the program. So it's actually indicates the start. The opening curly bracket indicates the start of a declaration or an executable part of the program, and then of course it has to be closed. Alright, then when we look at the other line, which is cout hello world, well, this one is a statement that will be printed on the screen or displayed on the screen once the program runs. The return 0 terminates the main function and causes it to return the value 0 to the calling process. So if, for example, this default program, if I run it by clicking on build and run, you can either click on build and you come and click on run, but I want to do these simultaneously, so I've hit that button of run, build and run. So it's actually going to build and then it's going to run. So when it runs, it actually goes into the terminal, and so the compiler has compiled this program so that we can read. So it says hello world there. So that's a statement which is actually here. So this statement here, which is hello world, is the statement that is getting printed there. Remember that you need a compiler, because when you type cout hello world and everything else, in this computer that you are using, it doesn't understand this part of the language. You know, you recall the aspect of binary system, the 0 and 1. So the compiler has to interpret this into something readable, and that's why we're able to see the printout on the screen there. Okay, so if you wanted to put another statement to print, you can do that. Let me just say, what have I done? Okay, I've removed that part. Okay, I wanted to remove it. Okay, let me just completely get rid of this statement here. So there we are. We do not have any statement. If I want now, we can now do our first statement. So we have the character out there. We're just interested in, now look at this. It uses the less than symbols. So after that, in double inverted commas, your statement must always be in double inverted commas. So what am I writing? I'm saying my first program. So my first program. Now at the end here, you can either end with /n, which is going to signify the end of this line, or you can end with the end line code. Now every line of coding will be terminated with a semicolon. So that semicolon is very important there, because it is actually going to show that now this part of a program has been, part of this particular line you are coding has come to an end. So you see now it says my first program. So when I run this, it will now pick up my first program. It will not say hello world, because I've added that particular sentence, and there's a sentence that should be displayed. I don't know why my computer is taking long to just compile. I think it's getting slow. So there we are. So you see my first program is actually written there. Now let's assume that you are dealing with a complicated issue. Someone is looking for a solution to a particular problem that they are facing. Maybe they are looking at you recall if function in Microsoft Excel. Now, one thing that you need to know is at the beginning of it all, you need to know how to declare a variable. Yeah, you need to know how to declare a variable. Also need to know how to initiate a particular variable. So in the next lecture that I'm going to handle, I'm going to look at now the actual aspect of declaring variables and also initiating values to such variables. Remember, a variable is actually a container. It holds some particular information that is stored, and then you can use it at a later stage in your program. So we'll look at that the next time we talk.